Yeah, back again. Today I'm gonna say something about a little analysis I gave. It's just pretty much a hack job, but doesn't even give a real scenario. Invasion USA. This is basically my own personal analysis. And it is not going to be as much asymmetric warfare, but before I get started, I'm going to give you a definition of asymmetric warfare. It is a high-tech environment. It's a high-tech enemy fighting a low-tech enemy. That's asymmetric warfare. That's the only definition that there is. Basically what it means is that guerrilla, well, this isn't going to be necessarily an asymmetric war. It's pretty much going to be even up in that area. As far as technology is concerned, and that's all asymmetric warfare means. The term usually was applied to a guerrilla, an empire against a guerrilla force, or a people's force. What I said was, when I wrote this, was the very first thing that would happen would be to cause as much chaos on the roadways as possible. Roadways being lines of communication, as referred to from military perspective, that is your supply lines. To hinder military reinforcement, also to try and kill as many people as possible. The more people you kill, the more you know, it's going to be a mess. In order to do this, I said local law enforcement would have to become so distracted. By distracted, I mean tied up. Well, since then, I heard I saw a guy write something. He says, he had friends in the Philadelphia law enforcement, and he said half of them were going to bug out. Well, see, the interesting thing of it is, when you get your paycheck from the city government and the city government ceases to function, you're no longer beholden to them. Contract's broken. They can leave. See? That's the difference between civilian and military. In the military, their contract is to stay and fight no matter what, whether you get a paycheck or not. So anyway, in order to do this, local law enforcement have to be so tied up as to be ineffective. This would cause clogged highways. And of course, you're going to end up with literally, probably, if I were going to take an estimate, about 100 million people stuck. And then I said, anyway, back to what I was saying, and the way you would attack after this chaos, the way you would attack this country, by, and of course I said, would be to cause chaos. That's just my lack of ability to communicate, which is evident right here, right now, anyway. But by hitting every single local, state, and federal facility, I mean every one of them. If you can think of an agency or government, a facility, you take them down. And at that time, what I was envisioning was, cruise missiles, basically. Missiles and cruise missiles. You know, in this era of smart targeting, that'd be a no-brainer. No-brainer. Most of these weapons have 500-pound high-explosive warheads, all the way up to 2,000 pounds, and 2,000-pound warhead going off is one freaking awesome sight. Panic will ensue. People will try to flee. Voila, roads clogged up. Add in 1 million or so foreign human subversives, and click. Now, since then, I've kind of changed my mind about how that's going to operate. What would start it off first would be cutting off food stamps. I mean, once people go hungry, I'm telling you, the sky's the limit. Boom, there's your panic. Start destroying local government facilities, and well, which means killing off law enforcement, any security that these facilities have. Once you destroy them, burn them down, annihilate them, people are going to run. I mean, this kind of panic, it hasn't occurred, well, ever in the history of the world, where the whole nation, especially one this big, and trust me, if people don't understand how big the United States is, they need to just, even if you take a drive across this country, from one end to the other, from coast to coast, you're going to discover that this is one freak. It takes 5 days. I said below that, the only fail-safe is for the people of the United States of America is the Second Amendment and the 200 to 300 million guns in the people's hands. Now, I've recently seen heard that there have been 400 million firearms produced. Here last year, there were 21 million handgun licenses processed by the FBI. So that would make 321 million. And of course, if you do that number once over again, or was that 2011, whatever, and last year, so if you do double that number up again at 21 million, you're probably looking at 340 million guns in the hands of the people. That is an unbeatable force right there. The estimates are that 200 million households have guns. It's an unbeatable force. To the extent that all 50 states should allow and authorize the creation of impromptu citizen militias, which, by the way, all the states have that, still have that ability to create their own little militias or militias. Right now, there are unorganized militias, like here in the state of Oklahoma, there is one militia that has, these are not state organized, people organized, 50,000. And I mean, that's 5 infantry divisions. That's a crap load of people. And any concern against, and by the way, I said any concerns against this voice by supposedly well-meaning intelligentsia be treated with suspicion. Absolutely. Somebody that opposes that, it ain't about people's safety. It might be about Kirk's safety, but mainly it's just because we got all them weapons, and it makes it impossible to invade this country. Well, not impossible, it'd just be a death fest. I'll put it to you that way. I think that New York City, Washington, D.C., L.A., and Chicago, the whole state of Florida may be lost initially. I don't think that will be all, but for sure there is that much. The reason they have the strictest gun laws, and ergo the good people don't have as many guns, and the good people are definitely going to be the ones the worrisome opposition. Crooks and criminals tend to flee, run, or crawl in some hole somewhere, so they're usually not that big a problem with, trust me, wherever you have a war zone, the crooks disappear. Which is kind of an amusing and amazing little thought. I remind everyone of this. If the U.S. government has knowledge of any of this, they have been very tight-lipped. But it's starting to leak out. I'm starting to see people saying it. I'm starting to see them come out with there's something more heinous going on out there. Of course it's heinous. You know? Not enforcing our southern border. That's heinous. I mean, that's just pure wickedness in its greatest form. And remember, God raised up the wicked the evil to destroy the wicked. God raised up the evil to destroy the wicked. I do believe there are preparations going on which have been being done under the guise of anti-terrorism. Unfortunately, I cannot rule out the possible co-opting of long-range construction and planning or current operations. I can think of a dozen other scenarios, but these areas are immediate. In the event of a massive attack, vulnerable. In any case, every single human subversives and ignorant followers of the invasion, including all NSA, federal and local law, lawmakers, judges, lawyers, organized criminals, criminal gangs, corporate people, no one's going to be safe. Now, how come I said that? Because whoever's doing this, they don't want them people left behind. Because you see, those people have been lied to. They've been told that life is going to be beautiful and hunky-dory, and they're going to get all kinds of money and wealth, or they're going to get their own little fiefdom and rule over their little city. All kinds of bullshit. I mean, just think about it. What would it take for you to go along with that? See, they're being lied to. They're being bribed. They're being bribed with a future promise that I guarantee there won't be anything left as far as, well, there will be a lot left, but you know, when I envision New York City after this, all I see is this giant pile of rubble where nearly every building is nothing but a pile of, just like the World Trade Center. There's just a pile of rubble. Well, imagine that whole miles and square miles of that, 50, 60, 100 square miles of nothing but brick and steel and rubble. In fact, I don't even think there'd be any steel in there. Frankly, I can think of a scenario where they'll just bring in salvage barges and just start sifting through it for heavy metals and metals and stuff like that, and mine that. I mean, there's got to be a million tons of valuable metals and minerals right there. They're gonna get rich just on scrap, including, by the way, gold, silver, diamonds. They're gonna come up with all kinds of stuff. Anyway, they're gonna be eliminated to create a cutout so that there is no opposing or possible opposing viewpoint. Because a lot of these people that are doing this crap are super narcissistic liars. And when they find out how badly they've been deceived, They're going to become the new guerrilla force. They're going to eliminate them first thing, and then they're going to say to the good people, see, we done a good thing. We got rid of them people. And then you're going to see like rows where tens of thousands of these sycophants are hanging by their necks. I can't even imagine what's going to go through this, but I was promised. You people promised me. And to them, they're screwed anyway. They're screwed both ways. I mean, when this is over, we're going to hang them. Those that are left. So you need to get off the bandwagon of the New World Order and a one world government and a borderless world and get onto the bandwagon of nationalism. Because if you don't, or rather nationalism as in this republic, which really is kind of not, you know, outside of us being a nation, we're not. The republic's a whole different ball game than what you're thinking of. This is what's made our country different from any other in the world. And of course I had to say, so if you may read this outside the normal security boundaries of the normal internet and may be subversives, then you know who you are, and have asked me how I would do it. This is how I would do it. And I'm not telling you this to make you feel better, by the way. I'm telling you this so that you understand what's going to happen is going to get out of control, just like Nazi Germany got out of control, and rumor has it even killed off the Rothschilds that every Rothschild he could get a hold of, killed them off. Anyway, I said I would throw an initial missile salvo at the U.S. of at least 1 million. Spelling there, targeting every of the above mentioned facilities and every military installation structure in the continental United States. I would have previously installed trained and educated subversives who walked across the Mexican border with fake papers and installed them in every aspect of American life. They will be heavily armed and prepared to cause as much damage and turmoil as possible. They will target as primary. If initial missile salvo failed to destroy or disrupt all the above mentioned facilities, secondary would be further attacks to cause general melees and panic in the streets. Just plain old killing and destroying any target of opportunity. Again, this is just a freaking hack job. I'm sure that if I would have re-edited it and gone through and tried to be more full, I would have, but I just wanted to get this thing on paper anyway, or, you know. This will be followed by landing regimental-sized units to seize ports and landing battalion-sized airborne units at every major air base and airport in the U.S. to facilitate the landings of the most massive hordes of follow-on troops ever assembled in the history of the world, numbered in the millions. These would be mostly ill-trained and ill-disciplined, even unarmed rabble, told to scavenge and loot for weapons and valuables. It will be an ancient and traditional total war. This rabble will be, in and of itself, a weapon of mass destruction. We'd only be able to respond to this attacks if military and police are augmented by organized and self-trained militia. We can only hope to delay the first combat assaults and destroy or delay preventing completion of initial enemy objectives. Doing this gives Americans time to clear up and eliminate, defeat the subversives, and clear up the chaos and restore at least emergency communications. My personal belief is that every major city will be at risk and likely taken over, forcing us to retake major cities to prevent enemy operations in our deepest rear areas. In this war, it will be nearly impossible to establish safe zones in the rear anyway.